If you want a statement as how this world has become so woke and so incredibly ingrained with delusional policies about men playing in women's sports, the fact that the current gold medal winning Olympian female boxing champion of the world is a man with a penis who beat up a lot of little girls. I'm not saying they were there. They were perfectly capable at the sport when they were fighting women, but a woman can't fight a man, not in almost any occasion, because we have 20% advantage in every area: reflexes, strength, bone density, everything. So that guy won the gold medal. A man is now the gold medal winning female boxing champion of the Olympics. It's disgusting. And if you like that, you'll like this video. Good morning and welcome to the Problem of Being Awake. This is an episode of the Armchair Monologues. My name's Ben. I'll be your host, and we're going to talk about censorship and corrupt media. So, Donald Trump's win, and it's a long form conversation, so I kick back and relax a bit so I can think and talk. So Donald Trump's win means a huge amount for the world. You can already see knock-on effects in almost every area where he will have an effect when he's president. You can see people moving towards his policies, they're moving in his direction, or they're still filled with woke idiocy and they're moving to the far left. And a message to the far left: you lost the woke revolution, the transmania of the last 2019, since when they declassified it as a mental health disorder with 0.004% of people affected, to now transmania land, where the 2SLGBTQIA infinity sign, and that's the abbreviated version of the new acronym. You think maybe their T's have taken over, and I can tell you that Douglas Murray is someone who entirely agrees that the L's, the G's and the B's need a new movement, because this one is absolutely nuts. I'm sorry, neo-pronouns, I didn't use the other lot of pronouns. I'm not going to memorize anybody's pronouns. I'm not going to ever use a pronoun. So, but you can't fit yourself to within these brand new 76 ones that they constructed. So you get to create your own. And they're so ridiculous. Like, one person has pronouns of a washing machine. What's going on there? And, the kid, this is how woke things were. The kid he thought he was a dog, got his dinner in a dog bowl and ate it on all fours while howling in a school. And I was the only person at the time to think, why didn't you give him pedigree chum or some other horrible wet dog food? Because if you want to encourage people and enable them in their delusions, that is what has been happening. But if you literally served him dog food, he would stop identifying as a dog immediately. So you can't go along with what these people are identifying with. Sam Smith has had a journey of heroic changes, and you're just like, how many changes are you going to make, mate? When's the final you coming out? Just leave it. I don't want to know about all the stages in the middle. No one did. The world didn't need you. You were a pain in the arse, Sam Smith. And I didn't like you. I liked you when you were singing, but no problem with the fact you're gay, you're whatever, but the satanic devil stuff, and the sick, sexy way that he tries to portray it is disgusting. It just absolutely is. And you can call me a transphobe. That's fine. You can call me an Islamophobe. That's also fine, because both of them are inaccurate whenever those terms are used. Transphobia means an irrational fear of. A phobia is not something that is anything other than an irrational fear of. So there isn't really transphobia in the world. It's that people don't like trans people. A phobia is an irrational fear of. And as a psychologist, I had so many clients with phobia that I was able to help, real life phobias. No, I don't think anyone fears trans people. They're just annoyed by them because they're getting everybody's faces. And Islamophobia, sorry, off the table as well, because Britain and Europe are having a major Islamist crisis at the moment. It is a rational fear. It then becomes rational. It's not phobia. Islamophobia would be an irrational fear, but there is currently a heightened threat level in all European countries of terrorism by Islamists across Europe. So it's a realistic fear. So no more talk of transphobia and no more talk of Islamophobia, because you're wrong on both counts. One is a really realistic fear, and the other one's not a fear at all. It's just you annoy us. Trans people annoy most people who aren't trans. So that's why they stick to their comfort bubbles. They are so ingrained in this surreal break from reality that they're probably 5 or 6 levels away from where we see things, which is normal and, based on values of other people, helping other people, being good to other people, being good to yourself, being good to your family, treating yourself with kindness, having empathy, sympathy. They're the least tolerant group. And they claim to be the most tolerant group. It's like Antifa claimed to be fighting racism and fascism. It's interesting the tactics they're using to do that are both racist and fascist. I just want to point that out. That's a little bit of a dilemma there for them. The BLM thing, I mean, Christ, you let these progressive lunatics burn down 2.2 billion worth of buildings, including black-owned businesses, over George Floyd. Do you think they wanted that or deserved that? No. Did the government do anything? No. The Biden-Harris government did nothing to contain the idiocy of the far left. And that's what it is. If you believe you're not a man or a woman, unless you're intersex, which is a very, very rare medical condition, then you're nuts. Sorry about that. I can say that as a therapist, you are not off your rocker at the moment, because unfortunately they took the mental health disorder part away. There's nothing wrong with a mental health disorder. I've had PTSD for 20 years. I manage it perfectly. It doesn't affect my life. But taking it away gave rise to this. Pre-puberty blockers, gender affirming care. That was never a thing before. Because it was all done with adults. You had to be 18, and that should be the world's law. It has to be 18 before any medical intervention can occur. But these NGOs, these gender surgeries, they pushed propaganda on kids age 9, 10, 11, 12, and really got them to question their sense of gender identity. And then if they ask for a sex change, the doctors will tell their parents if they don't get it, they're going to kill themselves in 2 years. Absolute heinous garbage that comes from WPATH, the leaked files, which are on Michael Schellenberger's website, environmentalsuccess.org. It might not be environmental success, it might be environmentalprogress.org, one of the two. But these people have personality disorders now. Borderline personality disorders are contagious amongst this group. And it really is time for the world to make a permanent stance. So we don't want wokeness. We don't want DEI hiring policies. Nobody wants that, because all that means is that the best people don't get the job. Everyone has equal opportunity. Everyone has equal opportunity. Everyone has equal rights. The trans group, the new young transmania group, are the only ones who've asked for more than equal rights, and the world pushed back and said no. And, the corruption inside the media, which was not just in America, it's still going on in the media in England today. Everyone has a lot of apologising to do to Donald Trump, I can tell you that, but to call him Hitler and all of his supporters Nazis and garbage and all this stuff, just to continually go down the line that he's Hitler and he's a threat to democracy. And then they finally do a national poll, and it shows that they think that the nation thinks she's the threat to democracy, which they were right, she was. Another 4 years of Democrat government in the US would actually have destroyed the world. And you can see how, because Biden's playing games with Trump by pissing off Putin, who's now given his threshold for launching nuclear weapons at Ukraine lower. So honestly, that was the worst move he could have made. And it's going to have repercussions around the world. And all of Biden and that campaign's decision, no one knows who runs the whole place. Nobody knows who's president or who has been the active president making the decisions in the last 4 years, because he showed his last full cabinet meeting, which they're supposed to have every week or every 2 weeks, that he himself held, was in October 2021. He then had a very brief one in October 2023, where he only spoke for about 3 minutes, and then another one where he spoke for 40 seconds and he let his wife do the talking for the rest. So is it her? Was it Kamala? Is it Barack Obama? Is it Hillary Clinton? They're all good suggestions, but we don't know. So who's running the most powerful country in the world? The fact that we don't know that is corrupt at its core. And that's what the Democrat Party have become, corrupt at its very core. They believe that they must censor you because they don't. The truth is too much for your delicate little ears. That's what they think. Too much for you to handle the actual truth. So we'll tell you what the version of the narrative. That's the new one. The narrative is. Now, if you accost a trans person and they obviously don't believe in biology, and you can play that argument. There's many ways you can win the argument with the trans people. One of the main ones in the protest is you realise that they would kill you, that the Gazans would kill you as an absolute moral duty because of their religion to anyone from the LGBT community, which, unsurprising to me, but unsurprising to some, had a major overrepresentation in the campus protesting. Some of them I've heard 30%, but in most of them I've heard 10, 15%, somewhere around that lot. That's way more than the natural demographic. And there's this idea of, is it protesting? A united protest of every type of woke, delusional youngster. Climate change, trans rights, I'm trying to think of another one that jumped on the bandwagon, but anything they were protesting about. People were being interviewed, say, why are you on this protest? Well, I protest Just Stop Oil, but I thought that all protesters need to get together to protest all protests, and then we'll get something done. One, just stop oil. Just stop talking. Because oil is necessary if we're going to even consider really going for a push for green energy. We need a lot of electricity to do that. And the only way we can do that is to drill oil out of the ground. So stop with your fancies that just stopping oil will stop anything. It would just grind the world to a halt and bankrupt it. Okay? We need oil for at least 20 years to get what should be nuclear power, which is very safe now, as the main provider of our energy. But with some solar and some wind, but they're not as cost effective. Nuclear is 20% of their costs. So nuclear is probably the answer. Again, Michael Schoenberger does a piece on this. You have no right to stick yourself to a road or block a bridge, because your causes, you have no right to interfere with other human beings' lives because of your causes, no matter whatever you think you are or what you think you know. And if you are from Just Stop Oil, you clearly don't know what's going on in the climate. For example, our carbon emissions in the last 10 years are way down. We're doing really well in the climate. I mean, our climate situation is one to be celebrated, not denigrated. We've literally turned a corner on that. China and India are still polluting the hell out of everything. But we're not. So stop ramming down false information into people and stop feeling that you can block traffic. There's people who stuck themselves to the M25. They were treated far too kindly. I would have unstuck forcibly the far lane and the second lane, leaving the slow lane and the fast lane as people in it, and watch the cars race by at 50 miles an hour and see how brave they are next time. And I wouldn't have unstuck them humanitarianly. I would have torn them from their pace, which would have meant that they're gluing themselves to it. That was their fault. They interrupted Les Miserables. I was there. It took a lot for the person with me to stop me from actually getting up and just ripping them off the stage. It was disgusting. You don't ruin people's lives because you've got a problem and you don't think the world is listening. Well, if the world isn't listening, great. Guess what? It's not listening to all of us. Okay? It's not listening to all of us. We're not all getting what we want. And your causes are ridiculously woke and untrue and based on nothing but fiction. Robin DiAngelo's book, that invented white supremacy, white privilege, white guilt, and white fragility, was a completely unreviewed book, and it's been analysed, and not one chapter or theory of hers about whiteness, which is she brought this word into the world, is actually viable by any university as a doctoral thesis. So she couldn't have written that and had it marked and been able to publish it. So that book is just her own thoughts. There's no research in it. The research she's put in it has not been fact-checked, and a lot of it has been fact-checked now, and it's shown to be made up. And that, and Joe Biden saying that America was systemically racist in June 2020 or whenever it was, not a good thing to do if you run the place, mate. But lots of bad things you've done as well, so lots of blood on your hands. I'm sorry that the amount of people who have died on the route to the southern border, trafficked through, the amount of sex trafficking going on, the amount of child abuse, trafficking of children, 500,000 missing children in the USA. It's a fucking catastrophe. I'm sorry to swear, but it is an absolute catastrophe. And it was through liberal and far left thinking that the border got opened. What did they expect was going to happen? And unfortunately, Venezuela did empty their jails, insane asylums, and just sent everybody with some money to go to America and never come back. So it really is insane. I can't honestly say. Well, I can say one more thing that's more insane than that is the current Olympic gold female boxing champion is a man with a penis. Now, how messed up a world do we live in when that's a fact? Now, this trans women in sports locker rooms issue, that's a big one for me. It's a big no, and I really think it's got to be a big no for society. Bruce Jenner is a great advocate against it as well, and I think that says it all. Bruce is now Caitlyn. I recognise Caitlyn, and I'm talking about Bruce because Bruce was an Olympian, but he went out and said the idea that because he trans, he could compete in female sports was an abhorrent idea to him. And he would have won every female sport by a mile. He was an exceptional athlete. But Caitlyn Jenner came out and said, I would never do that. I think it's disgusting. And the privacy of women's changing rooms and toilets should be privacy for women. There should not be men in there. There should not be no penises in the women's locker room. Doesn't matter what you think. A woman is more than just a thought. If you think you're a woman, you suffer with gender dysphoria. That's a mental health disorder, mate. And honestly, it's just a thought. You think you're a woman. A woman is made up of much more than just a thought. And this idea of embracing the bulge, so people can go wear like female swimming costumes with their privates bulging out, and what the hell? Embrace the bulge. That's become a phrase. embrace people who look ridiculously slutty and horrible trans. I'm going to say rubbish. I'm just going to say rubbish. There's grotesque things that they do, some of them, not all, but the ones who want to get attention on TikTok and all of that. It's disgusting. Dylan Mulvaney, Bud Light, great example. They put her on there, they lost all their customers. So people aren't actually inspired by trans people, and they aren't inspired by their stories. Most of them have underlying mental health disorders before surgery, almost exclusively. That was the case for 35 years. Now, it's certainly going to be the case for today, but they've got many, many problems. They've got so many social media outlets, and they've got a comfort bubble that reassures everything they believe and says it is all true. Men can be pregnant, for example. They want to make that true. And Tim Waltz spent $41.5 million on putting tampons in the male bathroom. I would have, if it were me, I would have waited until the first confirmed male person to have a period in the world before I spent $41.5 million on equipping men's toilets with tampons, because I've got a feeling I know if any of them, if anyone bought one or took one, I've got a feeling I know where it went, and it wasn't to stop bleeding. So I can't get on board with any of these liberal agendas, and the world has voted them out. Except for in this country where we're going to have a fight over it. But the fight is at its breaking point, really. We are so divided here as well, and Europe and England have this huge Islamist problem. And when I say Islamist, I don't mean Muslim. I know a lot. I've read the Quran, the Hadith. I have Muslim friends. I've been invited to join Eid once, albeit for just a morning part. And it was great. And they live down the road from me and they're family to me. And they're from Pakistan. Now, our country's calling segregation. I don't want them segregated, my friends. I want them not. Why would I want that? We're the most multicultural country on earth in England. We have a smorgasbord of every type of person you could imagine. And that's a good thing when they integrate. But the Islamists, the difference between Islamists and the Muslim is there is two interpretations of the Quran. Unilaterally, the interpretation of the Quran is the last and final religion. That is held by both camps. But what isn't held is this. So what they mean by that is a good Muslim means that eventually everyone should convert to being a Muslim. So a Muslim who is not radicalized believes that. An Islamist is someone who believes everybody must be Muslim, and even if that means they have to die to be out of our way so that Muslims can rule the world, that's okay. There's a big difference between saying I'd like everyone to be Muslim and I'm going to force by point of gun everyone to be Muslim, and I'm going to kill as many people as I need to prove my point. And unfortunately, we have a lot of those in this country at the moment. We've got Hamas leaders in London. We've got all sorts of problems. And these are people who are stoking the fires, stoking the hatred. They've invested into our universities, and they've put in, I think, I don't know how many hundreds of billions, but the top five donators to Western universities are Qatar, the UAE, Qatar is part of, but Qatar's spent 10 times as much. So it's a home for terrorist leaders. China comes in third. Saudi Arabia comes in fourth. Don't trust them at all. Not necessarily an enemy, but not an ally either. And Iran comes in fifth. And then we'll probably, hopefully, come in your own government, or maybe that'll be seventh or eighth. But these are the people who are funding our universities, teaching, telling them what to teach, and telling them what speakers to have on campus. And that's a big thing, because some terrorist speakers have been speaking regularly on US campuses and English campuses across Europe. And it's set to boiling point. And unfettered migration is causing huge problems for every country in which it's occurring. Italy is drowning, Spain is drowning, England is drowning, Germany, every single European country. And what they report in the media, they report that a whole load of people who believe the end of Western civilization is their end goal are living in our country and causing uproar. So they say that? No. It's all about human rights. I'm going to say human rights, because they've doubled down on human rights. But they've neglected the rights of the humans who were there first. I think that's the thing, that people who were there first, and that was the same in America with that mass migration, is the policy was to look after, give the immigrants homeless more than the Americans who were struggling. And I mean, it's absurd when they went to give debit cards out in the, in New York, Eric Adams went to give debit cards to all migrants homeless in their tents, but not to the veterans who were in their tents next to the migrants. They weren't entitled to. What the hell's that all about? And honestly, the censorship of all of this has been horrendous. I've watched it on the sidelines. I've been watching videos. Suddenly it gets taken off the air. And someone proved to me I was on a shadow ban. So, because my viewing just went way down, I couldn't explain it. And then he explained it to me, and he saw me up my list on the name of 20,000 conservative journalists who were pretty much banned from talking coming up to the election, censored by Big Brother itself. I'm not going to say which platform, but just censored. It's called a shadow ban. They make it look like you're getting a few views and things like that, so you just think you're having a bad time with your channel. But in truth, they're not showing your videos to anybody. They're just making up those numbers. So I've been shadow banned 3 times in this election cycle for the US because I'm a major supporter of Donald Trump. I recognise he's the only way to end the corruption within the media and within the government of the USA. And when he does it successfully, other countries will want to follow suit. So watch this space, because wokeism is ending. The Donald Trump, I'm going to say reign actually, because of the way he won, is beginning, and nobody wants left-wing progressive politics, identity politics gone mad. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants anything to do with it. So just give us the data as it is. Don't put a spin on it. And like, if you're the BBC, don't pretend that the opinion is valid when you're bought off and paid for. If you're all legacy media pretty much is bought and paid for by the far left. The exception in England is the Daily Mail, and the exception in America is Fox News. Other than that, they're all bought and paid for, and they will never say anything that's not compatible with far left beliefs. So there's a lot of corruption to weed out. There's a lot of nut jobs out there that need reining back in, and some of them need to be de-brainwashed. It's not easy to do, but it is possible. And I'm going to do a video on that and how to do that, so I'll leave it there. But we're certainly moving in the right direction now. The country needs this change, and I think it's about time we had it. So always a pleasure to do these long form interviews with you. I enjoy them. Please leave comments in the comment box to see how you like this form of your either news, or it's an opinion piece really, but how you like the setup and the armchair monologues. That would help me. But if likes and subscribes all help, it's all good YouTube jazz. But I hope you enjoyed the video, got something out of it, and if you want to, share it with a friend. I enjoyed making it. You be good, I'll be lucky, and I'll see you soon.